Hi, friends. Hi, friends. Hopefully everyone could see me and hear me. I know I'm on a little early, about a minute early. Beck Sparrow, if I could get a sound check, that would be wonderful. We got a big show coming up and lots of information. I do have a PowerPoint slide. Thanks, Beck Sparrow. I do have a PowerPoint slide here or a slideshow that I'm going to be implementing in about 5 minutes. Just giving everyone a chance to come in. Um, there's a lot to talk about, of course. We're all waiting patiently for these major changes that are going to take place in society. And if you're paying attention, you could see them subtly happening. Now, unfortunately, we have to keep an eye on the governments because they seem to be the ones pulling the strings right now. And especially in the United States, as I've been talking about for the longest time, that the United States is a major leader in what's going to happen in the world. And I do believe it's going to be economic. It's going to be a new financial system. That's what all the indicators are. And today I will be focusing a little bit more of the attention on the financial matters because something big is going on behind the scenes that is being kept quiet and is not being talked about anywhere. And believe me, it's getting harder and harder to find real information because the AI is definitely a problem right now because it is filtering and monitoring everything. And this is why I have the private community. And of course, I will be stepping into that private community right after this presentation. So, for those of you that are interested, there's a link down below. There's a free 7-day trial. Today, we're going to be continuing this conversation there for a few minutes. Then I will go into teaching one of my lessons. And so every week we have a different, something different that we're doing in the community. And of course, I do have members' charts. They ask me questions about their charts, and I go over that with them as well. So it's definitely an opportunity to dive deeper into what's going on and to understand the cycles and the patterns in your own personal life. So if you're interested, like I said, there's a link down below, and I will be hopping on that call right after this one. So we are witnessing some massive moves being made, and I could see them. I could sense them and feel them, but also see them. We cannot rely on mainstream media. Obviously, it's a given. I mean, we have to go to alternative sources now, and that is places like X and even Instagram. I hate to even use TikTok, but there's some good stuff on TikTok as well, but there's a lot of garbage on there as well. You have to use your own discernment. And so many of us in the truther movement are trying to get information out as quickly as possible about what's really going on without trying to scare anyone, without trying to give people any, doubt or insecurities. But we are in a very transformational period, especially this month, because we have some heavy alignments coming in that are coming in this week and throughout the entire month that are going to change the dynamics. And I will cover that in this presentation as well. So we got about another minute and a half before I start the slideshow. Okay. And so we are witnessing some amazing stuff. This is a transition like you've never seen before. Mr. T is definitely and entertaining, and he's a very unique character, and I appreciate what he's doing. In other words, showing everyone how corrupt the system really is. But I'm also watching him like a hawk, like everyone should. Okay, and especially folks on the right. And I don't consider myself someone who's on the left or the right. I'm a sort of a political atheist, if you will. But I'm smart enough to know what's real, what's not real. What are they spoon feeding us, and so on and so forth. Okay. And that's the way you should look at things. So I'm seeing some good things coming out of this administration, but I'm also skeptical and a bit suspicious about some of the moves that are being made in the banking system. And I will show you what I'm talking about because we know that they need to reset the entire world economy. And that is one of the main reasons they brought him in, to clean up the mess and then to implement the new economy. So let me start this slideshow and we'll go from there, okay? So let's see here. Entire screen. Give me a second as I talk to myself. And okay, so we got this. Let's go live stream. Let's hide that. Give me a second here, folks. Hopefully you can see that. All right, hold on. All right, so here we go. All right, so obviously I've called this one the tide is turning because I do see a lot of movement. I see there's a lot of action taking place behind the scenes. This is why I call the tide is turning. Not only that, astrologically, the energy is absolutely ramping up. We have Venus retrograde right now as we speak. This week we have the lunar eclipse and we have Mercury going retrograde. That is big in astrology if you understand astrology. So we have the full moon on the 14th. It starts on Thursday night, the 13th into the 14th. This is huge because this is a total lunar eclipse, which means that the Earth blocks out all the sun to the moon. The moon symbolically represents the subconscious. It represents the past. It represents our emotions, our security. And when we have a total lunar eclipse, over the course of the next 6 months, sometimes up to a year, because that's how strong eclipses are, they're reset cycles, they could indicate something coming to an end, a realization, an epiphany, something that you have to let go of. And we're talking about Virgo. Virgo is the analyst. Virgo is the pessimist. Virgo is the alchemist. Okay. So there are parts of ourselves that we have to start letting go of that don't work for us anymore. And they usually involve belief systems. Sometimes it could involve health because Virgo is the sign of health. So we may see things related to that that may be coming up in the news and so on. This is the first of the first of 4 eclipses. And there is the other 3 that are going to be happening. And all of them every year, we have 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 6, because they're partial. And so very powerful. But as you can see here, we have this one. And the blood moon really doesn't mean a whole lot. It's just because of the sun, the way it shines on the moon, making it look orange or red. Here we have a partial moon at the end of the month in Aries, the self, the sign of war, the sign of battle. So we are definitely in for some major changes this month, just symbolically from the astrology. But here we have this lunar eclipse. Now, it also happens on the 15th is Mercury goes retrograde. Now, Mercury is the communication symbol. It represents communication of all forms. And it'll be in Aries as well, going retrograde, which means going backwards. It feels like we're being brought into the past to review, to revise, to revisit. And this will make the second inner planet that goes retrograde. We already have Venus retrograde in Aries, and now we'll have Mercury in retrograde right around the eclipse. So this is a very powerful time for anything to do with communication. So we might have more information that comes out that shocks us and surprises us on some level. So this is going to be very important. So wherever this is in your actual birth chart, obviously you want to take a look over there because that is the area that's being affected the most. And so this is going to be very important as well. All right, so let's take a look and why I'm talking about finances on this live stream. We see Mercury and Venus here on Tuesday. This really starts late on Monday evening, but notice they're conjunct, which means they're together. This is exact in the evening at 6:55 p.m. on the Eastern time zone. Venus and Mercury conjunct usually indicates something to do with information, partnerships, could have something to do with money or values that gets brought forth. Now, because it's in Aries, it could have something to do with war or war funding or partnerships in war. Remember, right now, everything is being brought up. It's being dug up from the past. It's being brought to the surface. And that's what these outer planets are doing, like Pluto and Aquarius. Okay. And so Neptune is also in the picture here, still making a loose conjunction to the North Node, which means we are learning a lot of very valuable lessons spiritually as we dissolve the old belief systems, as we come to realistic expectations of the changes that we could expect. You know, everybody thinks it's going to be a utopian society. Remember, I said 2025 was a transitional year. We're in a 9-year numerology wise, which means learning very valuable lessons while we let go of things that we no longer need. And part of that's going to be the financial system, which I guarantee you is going to be new and may surprise the hell out of everyone. And I'm going to talk about that. But at the same time, on Tuesday, we have the moon transiting, which will be making a square to Uranus. That usually indicates a little tension, a little pressure. Could also be talking about financial matters. Now, what makes this so interesting is that Monday and Tuesday, the Federal Reserve is actually meeting, the governors of the Federal Reserve. That's very important. And I'll get into that in a minute. But here we have this Mercury conjunction right there in the fourth house. And so here we see the conjunction of Venus, which is in retrograde, meaning going backwards, and Mercury in Aries, right? And they're making a square to these planets right here in the United States' chart, which indicates to me something is brewing behind the scenes with partnerships or agreements that are being made. Remember, I've said this before, Jupiter's now in the seventh house. There's all kinds of deals being made behind the scenes. We also have the ruler of Aries, which is Mars right there, in the eighth house, which is clandestine, sneaky. It is behind the scenes. Talks are being made about the financial system. Eighth house does influence the financial system. So I'm seeing, and my spidey senses are picking up, something big here is going on with the financial system. We also see the transiting moon making that T-square going on to the United States' moon, as well as to the square to Uranus. So I am seeing a lot of changes behind the scenes here that are not going to be seen for a while. It may take until April, May, June, but I'm getting a time frame astrologically, and I did say this before, that this time, March and April, we have to keep an eye on the political theater and the financial system at the same time. But there's another time frame, July and August, which seems to be very big as well astrologically. So this is why I'm saying this. Okay, so keep an eye on this. Now, why am I saying this? In the last video, the last live stream, I talked about how JP Morgan basically has sold off 233 million worth of JP shares. Why are they doing this? What is going on? These are the indicators, friends. When you see a big criminal corporation like this selling off stocks, you need to be suspicious. You need to scratch your head and go, what are they up to? Okay, very important. We also know about Doge and the United States talking about gold, and there's been a lot of gold coming into the country. We don't even know if there's going to be any gold in Fort Knox, but they're doing something with gold, probably to cover some of the losses for the big banks, and so there is that possibility as well. But again, I'm putting two and two together here. Now, I did point this out in the last video. We have Arizona that has a bill going through the House, the Senate. Let's see, but Bitcoin reserve. All right, it passed the House. Now, remember, friends, a while back, about a year ago or less than a year ago, I said, watch Texas and Arizona. They're going to lead the way in something. And we're seeing this as an indicator for that. Okay. But Texas also passed the bill. They're voting on a bill here to make Bitcoin a reserve as well. So now we have two states, the two states that I mentioned, that are making plans to have a reserve in cryptocurrency. Very telling. Very, important to keep an eye on these things, because remember, the powers that shouldn't be are in trouble because they can't keep printing the phony Ponzi scheme money anymore. So they have to turn to digital. And by the way, this is something that they've had in the works for many decades. You hear me? Many decades. This is not like it happened last week. No, they've been talking about this since, believe it or not, the late 60s. They knew that they needed a new system. And then as the technology advanced, then they started to realize, hey, we could use digital, currencies and credit cards and all this stuff and take us further and further away from actual physical money. So this is definitely showing up real strong in the astrology and what's really going on. Okay. Now there's something else going on in Arizona. Arizona is being flooded by tons of money. Why? Once again, Arizona is better suited for big companies with tax benefits and basically a growing city. So here we have another one. This is a TSMC will be expanding in Arizona. They've got $100 billion expansion in Arizona for another plant, another chip manufacturing plant. So I'm seeing the trend as Arizona continues to grow economically, and so does Texas. So this is why I've been saying all this. Watch Arizona and Texas. These are going to be very important states as they basically take the lead, especially if they go to cryptocurrencies as reserves and they're able to accept crypto. We're going to see these two states really become the leaders in the forefront in the financial movement. Okay, so now we also had Trump and his team talking about the first crypto summit at the White House. Now, I watched a little bit of it and I knew where it was going. And so, but this is pretty amazing because Trump has talked about crypto in the past. Here's one of his posts and of making crypto, as a reserve backup currency here. And these are the ones that were deeply indicated: XRP, Solana, ADA, which is Cardano. These are the ones that they've been talking about. Now, again, friends, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to go out and buy any of this because it's very confusing. But they are definitely leaning towards using some of these cryptos in order to back the new currency. Again, I want to see something backed by actual physical gold. That's the one you want to focus on. Okay, whatever crypto it's going to be. But you see, Mr. T has been making these announcements about crypto because he's meeting with a lot of these financial people, and he's leading the way. As I've been saying all along, Mr. T was brought in to clean out the mess in Washington before they implement this new currency. Okay, because you can't implement a new currency and have all this corrupt money going to people and places that it doesn't belong. So this is what he's doing. So for you folks on the left, you think this is, he hates you or something like that. No, it's more than that. They're cleaning out the corruption, downsizing a lot. And so we're going to see it. Now, this is something I want to turn your attention to because it's very important. If you're not familiar with ISO 222 here, this was very important because this was written in August of 2024. The Federal Reserve Fedwire funds service will transition to this new system, this new format on March the 10th. Now, this has been delayed. Now, if you don't understand what this is, the Fedwire funds, this is a new way of moving funds along to settling transactions and so on. Right now, we have the SWIFT system, which is basically being faded out because this new system is going to be completely digital. And so they're supposed to implement this on March the 10th, but they're not ready. So this is a very important understanding. And please look it up for yourself. Do some research on this because they are literally changing the platform, which all the banks, notice the format is mandatory. All banks will need to comply with the new format to enable successful wire transactions, which means as they implement to a digital currency, everything you do will be known to the banks. Everything. Okay? You go buy a candy bar, you go get gas, you go whatever. It's all going to be digitized. And this has been the main concern for many of us. And so my suggestion, keep pressure on these people. Keep watching what they're doing, not what they're saying. Watch what they do. Watch what they connect with and try your best to understand it and see where it goes, because this is going to be very important. Here is another website that I found, and again, you could just Google this. And this is from the some company. I forgot what it was, but just Google ISO 20022. Okay. This is another article that I was reading about. So again, we're looking at a transition taking place behind the scenes. This is what I mean by the tide is turning. Things are moving fast. Now, that date from March the 10th has been moved to July the 14th. So watch that date. Again, what did I say? July and August, right? So here we see that they have changed. This is from the Federal Reserve Services.org. You could just Google this. Sorry if my picture here is blocking some of this, but you should be able to see this here. It's been rescheduled for July the 14th. So Again, there is another important date. Please write it down. Pay attention to what's going on, because once they unleash this system, it's going to change the entire financial landscape. Okay. And we don't know exactly how it's going to play itself out. Remember, I've said we're in the wild west of currencies right now. I think there'll be many different ways to pay for things for a while, including cash, silver coins, gold coins, whatever. But the powers that shouldn't be want everything on the digital platforms, because the AI is going to take over and it's going to monitor everything. And the downside to that is basically, if you don't meet a certain criteria, or if you're doing something they don't like, they just shut off your funds and now you can't access anything. If you think I'm kidding, it's already happening in other countries. Okay, what is it? China already has the implementation of a credit score tied into your, your identification. And if you don't meet a certain criteria or something, they cut off your funds, so you can't even buy food. And I put that video out a bunch of videos ago. But they're testing this in other countries before they implement it worldwide. So this is the main concern that I have with all this digital stuff. Okay, so keep an eye on this. Now, we also saw the political theater in Washington, where Trump, and I've said this before, friends, I support Trump, but I can't stand listening to him. Okay. I'm sorry. It's just, his ego comes out, and we did this, we did that, all this other stuff. And it's just his personality. It's okay. I understand it. Okay. But I really have trouble listening to him. Okay. Like, I'm sure, like many others, but I support him. It's the weirdest thing. So we saw him basically telling the world what he's going to be doing. Now, one of the things I picked up on, my spidey senses were going off the charts when I was listening to him for the first 20 minutes or so. I just kept seeing that this was all organized. This has all been organized, including the people on the left. They were told what to do or else. That's what I got. So what we're witnessing from the folks on the left is their frustration, yes, but also the ones that don't understand what's happening are lashing out. But the ones that do understand what's happening are having to play their role, because I do believe they were told, if you don't play along, you're going to go to Gitmo and we'll just replace you with a body double. Now, you heard me correctly, because they do have the technology for that, friends. Okay. I know somebody that told me all about this stuff. So, but anyway, my point being is that we are witnessing something organized and structured, and everyone is needing to follow orders or go in and do what they're supposed to be doing. And that's what we're seeing right now. The name of the game is to change Washington completely in order to make way for this new financial system, which is going to be totally digitally controlled AI. And this is something we have to pay attention to. You can't stick your head in the sand anymore and go, oh, yeah, I'm for this Democrat, I'm for this Republican. No, you've got to look at the bigger picture. Okay. So we see also Mr. T making some major changes with getting rid of the Department of Education. He's going to start cutting left and right, because these, again, are organizations that are basically just siphoning money for the leaderships and the organizations. They don't need to be federal. As he stated, they could be on a local level, at a state level. They don't need to be funded by the federal government. And so you see him abolishing this. And of course, there's also, he gave them an offer of a buyout, and many of the workers took it, according to this. 137 Department of Labor Services people took it. They took the $25,000 buyout and said, okay, I'll go get another job somewhere else. So I'm saying what they're doing is they're trying to make it as fair as possible for these people in the federal government to basically walk away from their jobs, and they're giving them these buyouts. So, I mean, I think that's fair. I really do think that's fair, because they're downsizing the government. All right. So it has to happen. We can't keep going with this bloated bureaucracy that's been controlling Washington. Soon we'll have the AI bureaucracy to control Washington. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. He's also talked about selling off federal buildings, 443 of them to be exact, that are non-core assets, like this one in Wyoming, a property that Dick Cheney, the Dick Cheney Federal Building. Like, we need that. and all these other properties in Chicago and Maryland and DC and Virginia. These are non-essential, also in California and Atlanta, all of these non-essential buildings that are basically there to siphon money. Okay. And if one thing that Doge has shown us is that the corruption is very deep. And it probably happens on both sides, but it's more so on the left. As they set up these organizations, they funnel the money through their family members, their friends, their companies, their corporations, and so on and so forth. It's already been proven. It's not me saying it, but we are seeing how the system works. And again, it is all based on creating phony money that doesn't exist, that is then lent to the government. The Federal Reserve prints money it does not have, and it lends it to the government. That's why it's so important to grow government. And these people know this. And so now Mr. T is being forced to change the system. And that's what I'm seeing here. We also see at the same time Canadian lawyers and leadership going to Washington and literally talking to Mr. T about a 51st state. And Alberta is definitely interested in becoming the 51st state. So this was on Fox News. And so here's a lawyer, a Canadian lawyer that actually talked to Fox about what they were thinking about doing. So this is very important as well. And we'll have to keep an eye on this story for you folks that are Canadians up there, especially in Alberta. Your leaders or some of the lawyers there basically want to become the 51st state. So again, this is a very interesting turn of events, and we'll see what happens there. Okay. But there's more news here. The Epoch Times is reporting that the U.S. is charging 12 hackers from this country here, as you could see here, for cyber attacks and operations. Now, I have been seeing a lot of arrests, but again, they're not being reported on. And so this is a major concern, friends, because the cyber attacks, once we go all digital, this, the communists in this country right here have technology to hack into things like our grid system, like our water supply system, like our, all these functional systems, because they want to destroy them and cause havoc. So the warfare that we're going to see in the future is not going to be with military boots on the ground. It's going to be digitized. And it's going to be cyber attacks against infrastructure causing mass chaos. Now you ask, why would they want to do that? Because the communists in this country were basically ordered to do that by the world leaders, the powers that shouldn't be. Remember in 1970, 71, 72, when Nixon and Kissinger went to China to make these deals to create the dollar as the world reserve currency. And that's when Nixon took us off the gold standard as well. They went to China to tell China, hey, we want you to do this, this, and this, and we'll make you filthy rich, and we'll move all our companies into your country over the next 20, 30 years. And that's what they did. And so what we're witnessing, I'm not talking about the average decent Chinese person. I'm talking about the communists. They are basically doing all the dirty work for the deep state, the worldwide deep state, okay, which is really international criminal banksters. And so this is what we're seeing right now. Okay. Of course, this clown is very, very much a part of this. Okay. He's another player. He is basically trying to drag, as this picture depicts, the world into another war. Now, why is that important? Because if you understand how the financial system works, who benefits from war? The bankers. Who causes destruction and then, implements new laws, and the governments all of a sudden start making new laws to restrict more freedom? Let's think 9/11. What happened after 9/11, right? When they passed the Patriot Act, which gave away more rights to the government. Okay. So this clown over here basically is in trouble because his country is basically not getting funded, and he's not getting any more money from the US. Europe, I think it was Britain that's giving him some money. But the problem here, friends, is what I see is Europe is in trouble. Europe, I hate to say this, friends, they don't have a large sort of, corporate entities that they could rely on. I mean, they've been taxing their people, and there's a lot of sort of socialism there. In other words, people get a lot of benefits from their governments. So they're totally corrupt. And so what's actually happening is, as we go to the new financial system, these countries are going to have a tough time adjusting, because everyone's going to want their handouts, everyone's going to want their payments, and they don't have any money coming in because everything's going to be digitized. So their last ditch effort is to destroy or cause war or cause conflict in order to rebuild it and say, hey, we need the world to help us rebuild this and that. And that's what's happening. But this little flag here and this clown here, as I've pointed out in the past, and everyone knows this has been a money laundering operation for decades. Okay. We lend money, the sales from drugs, the sales from arms, all goes through this country and then gets funneled to the bankers and to the dirty politicians around the world. It's been proven. I can't give you any more, evidence of this. So this country is now in limbo, trying to figure out what its place is going to be in the world. So this is where it gets tricky. So we got to keep an eye on this story as well. Here's another example. Poland is basically the leader there. The prime minister was making announcements to prepare for large-scale military training for every adult male in Poland as a result of the security situation in Europe. This is what I'm talking about, is that they're concerned because they see the writing on the wall coming in, that there may be conflicts coming to Europe, and it could be military-wise. Now, I'm saying this also as an astrologer, because we astrologers know that at the end of March, we have this solar eclipse that's coming in Aries, which symbolically represents conflict, war, military. See how it works? But more so, Neptune also goes into Aries the following day, on the 30th. And then later on in May, at the end of May, we have Saturn going into Aries. So we have all this strong Aries energy coming into being the next couple of months, which to an astrologer indicates what kind of conflict are we in for? Because not only is Aries about asserting action and conflict, but it's also about starting something new. But unfortunately, the energy of Aries or Mars, one and the same, is about battle. It's about being confronted and being brave and overcoming, but it also represents the military. And so I would say watch April as Mars makes its way back into Leo. This is when the egos start to fly and we become more aggressive, and we may see more military stuff going on in Europe. So this is why it's important to watch these little news stories like this, because they are indicators of what may be coming down the road. Follow? So it's not, I'm saying it's going to happen, but the indicators are all there. All right. Now, here on the home front, we are seeing, again, very strange events going on in the Southeast with these fires. Now, this one I know personally because I do have a really good friend of mine that lives in Myrtle Beach, and I contacted him and I said, hey, what's going on? Well, these fires are a couple of miles down the road from me. And I'm like, it's getting pretty scary down here, So here we see another indication of fires that come out of nowhere, which are kind of strange. All right. First California, now the East Coast. And of course, I did see this story. This was, I believe, on the New York Post. A South Carolina woman was arrested for igniting fires. Now, did she do this on purpose? It didn't say, but she was arrested for this. Remember, people were caught in California starting fires. Here we see somebody else starting fires. And so somebody is paying these people, or are they that stupid, or, to cause this damage? I don't know. But the indicator is there that something weird is going on with these fires. And here's a map that I found showing you all the fires as of, looks like the 5th, March the 5th. Now look at this. All these fires down here in the South. Now you say to yourself, what the hell? Why would there be so many fires? Like, we've never seen stuff like this before. I mean, the West, the Southwest, where I live, that's more indicative of fires because it's so dry, but not so much in the Southeast. So there's something weird going on here. And I'm not going to say what this is, but some of you already know what I'm talking about, because I did talk about this in my private community, and I will continue this conversation about this system in the private community, because these things are all over the country and they start flashing, as you could see here, and very suspicious. Okay. And I'm not the only one. There are many other YouTubers that have been researching this and showing you the evidence of what's really going on here. Okay. So this is a topic that we really need to pay attention to for those of you that are real truth seekers like myself. But again, I'm saying, friends, it's getting really hard to find information because the internet's being scrubbed. And this is why I have to talk like this in order to not say anything, to get the algorithm not to, get triggered. So I'm going to be continuing this conversation in the private community right after this. Link down below. Remember, there's a 7-day free trial, so there's no obligation. Now, I found this quote, and I've known about this for the longest time. And so I'm going to just share it with you. You can take a screenshot of it, whatever you want. I'm going to read it, but I'm going to read it very carefully. This is from JFK. One day after I'm long gone, you will remember me and say, we should have stopped the nuclear program in this organization, this country, abolished the Federal Reserve, and kicked all the secret society, occultists, usurpers, and these beings out of our wonderful country to keep it that way. But it is never too late. Just remember that. Now, if you're familiar with JFK, obviously he was killed because he started speaking out against these people. Okay, he knew all about them. There's many speeches out there. I hope you could find them once again because the AI is being scrubbed. So he knew what was going on, and they basically killed him for it. All right. So here is what we're witnessing right now. And I've said this before, so I'm just reiterating it here and why it's so important. In 1963, there were 77 generals that came together, and the plan was born to save the world. 3 months later, we had 133 generals became part of this program right here. Okay. You are witnessing a 60-year military delta. That's exactly what appears to be going on. Okay. And again, I have to say appears because I'm not in there, in the boardrooms listening to this. I'm just piecing everything together and realizing and tuning into what they are actually doing or trying to do. And this makes the most sense right now. Now, whether these generals are going to help humanity or are they playing their roles as well, we will see, friends. Okay. But this makes the most likely sense connecting the dots. So we'll see. Anyway, let's get to the few charts here that I have. Here's a lunar eclipse. If you're not familiar with it, this is when the Earth blocks out all the sunlight to the moon. And so that's what a lunar eclipse is. And this is a total lunar eclipse. So here are the areas that it's going to be affected by. Notice a country or two countries that are going to be involved here. It's going to be right over the United States and Canada and parts of Alaska and South America. So what that means is over the next 6 months, there will be major changes in these regions. Now, it could also affect the weather. Let's not discount that because solar eclipses and lunar eclipses are shifts where the sunlight is actually being blocked, either by the moon or the sun. So wherever they fall over these regions, there could be, events that happen naturally, like earthquakes or weather anomalies or, strange weather or something like that. Just ask Indonesia. They've had earthquakes and weird weather for a while because they had some severe eclipses about 10 years ago. And now we're seeing the after effects of it. So anyway, here is another version of it. Here is the moon. As you can see here, it'll be opposing the sun up here. And look at where it falls over the United States. Once again, Texas. I do have another shot here of a little closer up of where that eclipse falls right there. See the sun and moon right there. So here you go. Amarillo, Lubbock, all the way through the middle part of the United States. So what I'm suggesting is pay attention to this region in the next 6 months and see if there's any unusual developments or maybe announcements or mass migrations or some events that take place over the course of this region of the United States. That's all I'm suggesting. Okay, that's how it works in astrology. So the total lunar eclipse, the moon will be opposing the sun, but notice how many planets are in alignment with the sun. We have restrictive Saturn, we have the North Node, we have Neptune, all in the mix here in a conjunction up against the moon. And so what this is suggesting is there's some sort of tension, some sort of realization, possibly with government or corporations, going in a new direction. The North Node and Neptune conjunct, which is basically showing us the direction we're going in. Neptune is more spiritual in nature, but it also has the tendency to be unrealistic. It could dissolve a lot of issues. Now, the one thing that both of these signs represent is things pertaining to health. Health matters, well-being, and so on. So keep an eye on things like pharmaceuticals, food production, especially with Uranus in Taurus in the mix. Taurus rules cattle. And so it is making a favorable alignment, but again, we still need to pay attention to. And a perfect example of an alignment like this would be that whole bird flu thing, where they killed millions and millions of chickens, because of the bird flu. So this is the kind of stuff and stories that I'm talking about that we need to pay attention to in the next few months, at least up to the next 6 months, because that's how long an eclipse can manifest itself. It's usually the 3rd month into the 6th month. So we need to pay attention to all of this, okay? Because this is the first eclipse and it's a total lunar eclipse. So, because it's an ending, a completion, a lot of people are losing their jobs in federal government. They're losing their health care benefits, all of that stuff. That's what I'm talking about here. In our personal lives, it's what you need to get rid of that's not working for you anymore. Any beliefs, any small details that you've been overlooking in your life and you've been obsessing about. Health matters in your personal life that you need to take care of, that you need to change your habits, maybe eat better, maybe start exercising, the whole 9 yards. That's under this umbrella. In the United States' chart, we again see that eclipse. I've covered this before, but we see that square to Mars. So again, I'm seeing battles behind the scenes for control of something. And so this is what I'm seeing, especially with Venus and Mercury also making squares here. So I think Mr. T has got his hands full right now with what's going on, and and the people behind them that are pushing and pulling and going, no, we need to do it this way. No, we need to do it that way. No, we need to do it this way. And so I think we got different factions battling, but this could bring in some conflict, friends. So pay attention this entire week, because it's being activated all the way through the weekend of next week. The energy is very volatile and it's going to be very heavy. I'm sorry to have to say that, but Mercury is slowing down to go retrograde as well. And when we have retrogrades, the energy does feel a little weird and wonky. And again, it's very subtle. It's not like, it's going to be shining in the sky telling you with a sign. It's going to be very subtle, where you feel more tired or exhausted or confused, or you start thinking about the past. And that's what an eclipse will do. A lunar eclipse will do. It brings up the past. And there's a lot of the past that's coming forth in the next week, politically and in our personal lives. Okay. So we also have there's the Mercury retrograde that's going to happen between the 15th and April the 7th. So with Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde, I would not advise anyone to be purchasing any large ticket items or anything to do with electronics, because Mercury rules electronics and Venus rules large items, that are large purchases. Both of them are in retrograde mode, which means that if you do buy them, not that anything's going to go terribly wrong, but it's confusing. It could be something that you overlooked. It could be something from the past that doesn't work out the way you thought. It might be short term. That's what retrogrades indicate in astrology. So we see Mercury in retrograde here on the 15th. It'll be joined with Neptune, and these two will be together for actually quite a few weeks as they go backwards, and then they retrograde and they join Neptune. So I'm expecting the entire month that these two are going to affect everything in terms of communication, our electronics, our mindset. Watch the political theater. That's going to be very important as well. Religious institutions, because once they go back into Pisces rules religions. So we might find ourselves with more scandals. We might have a pope that passes on. I don't know if he has already, but we may see things in the religious order that are going to be very important as these retrogrades take place. So retrograde means just going back. All right. So I want you guys to think about that. Anyway, here is the free community. Again, there's a link down below. I'm going to be going in there in about 15 minutes. So for those of you that are new that want to join in, there's a free 7-day trial. I do the extended horoscopes in there every month. I do the horoscopes on YouTube, but I also do extended ones in there. I do a weekly astrology overview, which the members seem to enjoy, and I'm grateful. Teach astrology, weekly Zoom calls. Every Sunday there's a Zoom call, and members send me their chart ahead of time, and I discuss some of the issues in their charts as I'm teaching everyone astrology. So you get to connect. And of course, I could talk a lot more freely in the community. So this is why I have the community, and it's getting harder and harder, like I said, with the AI monitoring everything on the regular internet. So this is why a lot of us are turning to our own communities. So this is something that you guys might want to be interested in. We have a great group of people there, and I'm grateful. Anyway, link down below if you're interested. So let me just stop this and last minute sort of let me see here. Let's see. Stop sharing. Got it. Okay. Okay. I think we're back. So anyway, I'm not going to be able to take any questions here. Maybe one. I don't know. Let's see. Ask about eclipse this week. I'm just looking over how will the drug cartels operate. That's a good question, Linda. They'll have to start using crypto, I guess. And so the U.S. Strategic Reserve, including various cryptos, do current astrological trends favor technology and financial innovations. Yes, Pluto in Aquarius, and then later on in July, Uranus and Gemini, they favor all that kind of technology. Okay, so that's what we have going on. Anyway, friends, I'm going to wrap this up and prepare for my next, call here in the Zoom call in my community. So anyway, I left the link down below if you guys are interested in joining, and I look forward to seeing you guys there. And it's a very interesting time, but things are slowly starting to move this week. And so pay attention to everything, every little detail, every small article that you see, just put it in your mind and see if it makes any sense and start connecting the dots. That's the biggest thing I want everyone to take away from this. Okay. Anyway, have a great Sunday, and I look forward to seeing many of you in the inner circle in about 15 minutes. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.